Before there were banks, before there were coins, before the world even had a name, there was law. The same law that lights the sun governs your wealth today. Most people try to earn by effort, but I tell you, true riches come by alignment. When you know this law, you will never fear lack again. In this message, I will show you the law that governs all wealth, the law that existed before money itself. You will learn why effort alone cannot make you rich, and how the spoken word can move substance faster than any labor. I will give you the exact phrases and affirmations I have used to turn empty purses into overflowing accounts. You will see that wealth is not something you earn, it is something you allow when you think, speak, and act under divine law. By the end of this lesson, you will know how to command your good without strain and draw to you every form of prosperity by right of consciousness. I have met so many souls who work harder every year and still find themselves trapped in the same cycle of bills, worry, and waiting. They tell me, "Florence, I've done everything right, why does it still feel like struggle?" And I say, because you are trying to draw from the outer world what can only come from the inner one. You are pulling at branches instead of speaking to roots. You were born rich, not in money, but in mind. The moment you speak truth instead of fear, life rearranges itself to match your new belief. I've seen it with merchants, artists, mothers, and children. The law plays no favorites, but few ever learn how to speak the command. In this teaching, we will uncover the oldest law in existence, the one that turns ideas into income and words into wealth. I will tell you how I discovered this law, how it works, and how you can use it to create freedom without struggle. You will hear real examples of men and women who applied one simple statement of truth and saw abundance appear through unexpected channels. We will explore the pros, a connection between heaven's order and human success, why divine timing always favors faith, and why gratitude multiplies everything it touches. You will learn the exact affirmations to speak each morning to align yourself with this eternal current of prosperity. And at the end, I will lead you through a declaration so powerful that if you speak it with belief, you will feel the law move before the words leave your lips. Because the truth is simple, heaven never runs out of wealth, only man runs out of faith. There is a truth older than any civilization, older than the stars, older than the very light that shines through them, and yet it lives within every breath you take. That truth is the divine law of supply. Before man wrote laws on stone, heaven wrote one into the heart of consciousness, the law that whatever you ask in faith must answer, and whatever you affirm in truth must appear. It is the great equation of spirit, demand and belief equals supply and manifestation. Every form of wealth you've ever touched, every coin, every home, every opportunity, is nothing but a shadow of a higher invisible current that already exists in the unseen. I do not speak of money alone. I speak of the infinite river of ideas, opportunities, and provision that never ceases to flow from the mind of God into the world of men. Here's something most people completely miss, and it keeps them in endless struggle. You do not create wealth. You align with it. The supply is already finished, the law is already written. The river of abundance has never once stopped flowing, man merely turns away from it. Most people chase shadows. They look to the job, the paycheck, the sale, the stock, believing those are the source. But I tell you, those are only reflections of an inner belief. When you begin to understand that every visible thing comes from an invisible cause, you stop striving and you start commanding. Let me show you how this law reveals itself. Once, a woman came to me, weary and afraid. Her purse was nearly empty, her rent overdue, and her faith thin as paper. I looked at her and said, "You are not in lack, you are in misalignment." She stared, not understanding. I told her, "You're looking to matter instead of to mind. Money is only the messenger. Supply is the message. Turn your eyes to the source." I asked her to speak these words every morning and every night. God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. A few days later, she followed a hunch, a small inner whisper that told her to visit a place she hadn't thought of in years. There she met an old acquaintance who owed her money she'd long forgotten. Not only did he pay her that very day, but he offered her new work that doubled her income. She laughed through tears when she told me. I said, "Do you see? The moment you turned your thought from fear to faith, the channel opened. The law had been waiting all along. The law of supply is not a secret, it's simply ignored. Every spiritual law is as mechanical and certain as gravity. You drop a stone, it falls. You speak faith, it multiplies. You speak fear, it shrinks. The law is no respecter of persons, it respects only vibration. If you are aligned with abundance, abundance responds. If you dwell in lack, lack mirrors itself in your affairs. The invisible always creates the visible. The mind precedes the manifestation. That is the rhythm of the universe. You may say, Florence, but I've prayed, and nothing has happened. And I will ask you, have you prayed in belief or in worry? Have you asked for help as a beggar, or spoken as a child of the Most High? Heaven doesn't answer begging. It responds to knowing. The moment you declare, I have received, the law begins to work. Every vibration of certainty draws to itself the material equivalent of that belief. The wealth code of heaven is not written in numbers or contracts, it is written in consciousness. The supply you experience is the measure of your recognition of God as source. The moment you say, I am one with infinite supply, you plug yourself back into the eternal current that has been flowing since before the stars began to shine. That current cannot be interrupted, but your awareness of it can. I often tell my students, God is your silent partner in every transaction. You may see a customer, a client, or a paycheck, but the invisible one behind them is your true source. That is why you must never fear when one door closes. The law of supply cannot be exhausted. The form may change, but the flow remains. The more you understand this, the less you cling. You begin to live like a tree planted by living waters, steady, fruitful, unshaken by drought. And so I say to you, stop asking how your supply will come. The how belongs to the law. Your part is to declare, to believe, and to prepare. When the farmer plants his seed, he doesn't demand to see the roots. He waters, he trusts, and he waits. The law of growth handles the rest, so it is with you. The invisible soil of spirit already holds the harvest. The seed is your word, the watering is your faith, the sun is your gratitude. Speak the word, feel the truth, and let the law do what it has done since the beginning, bring the unseen into form. Say this aloud with me now, and let the words sink deep. God is my unfailing source of supply. All that is mine by divine right now comes to me easily, joyously, and in perfect ways. Pause. Feel that. Let the vibration of those words replace the noise of fear. That feeling, that quiet assurance, is the first deposit in your invisible account. It will draw interest in ways you cannot yet see. This, my dear one, is the eternal law of supply, heaven's first wealth code. And the moment you understand that the supply is not created by effort but revealed by faith, your struggle ends. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you command. You no longer fear the economy of man, you trust the economy of God. Now that you understand where wealth truly begins, not in the purse, but in the mind of God, we can move deeper. For though the law is eternal, man often forgets it. Let me show you how forgetfulness has cost the world its peace, and how remembering this law restores prosperity to every heart that believes. It has always amazed me how man, surrounded by plenty, still manages to convince himself that he lives in want. The earth overflows with fruit, the air hums with song, the sun gives without condition, yet man alone imagines lack. He builds fences around abundance and calls them banks, hoards his treasures in fear of tomorrow, and then wonders why his soul feels empty. He prays for supply while doubting the source that breathes him. He looks upon creation and forgets that he, too, is part of it, that the same power that made the stars made his voice to call things forth. The law never changed, but man forgot. He fell asleep to his own authority. Every age has suffered from the same amnesia. In ancient times, the wise knew that to speak was to create. They understood the word as vibration, the living breath of spirit shaping substance. But as men turned their gaze to material success, they forgot the invisible order behind it. They mistook effect for cause, coins for wealth, labor for creation. They believed effort could replace alignment, sweat could substitute for faith, and competition could produce peace. And so, the age of anxiety began, man against man, mind against itself, each one chasing shadows across the walls of illusion. Here's something most people completely miss. No one on earth is truly poor. Poverty is not a condition of pocket but a condition of perception. It is the blindness that comes when you see the visible world as the source instead of the mirror. When a man believes that his job, his employer, his business, or even his talent is his only means of support, he lives in fear of losing it. He spends his life clutching at channels, forgetting that channels change, but source remains. You may lose a position, a client, or a stream of income, but you cannot lose the law that supplied it. The law is eternal, it cannot die with a paycheck. I tell my students that man's greatest mistake is mistaking effort for faith. Effort, born of fear, multiplies exhaustion. Faith, born of peace, multiplies results. When you act under divine law, your movement is guided, your timing perfect, and your harvest sure. When you act in panic, even noble labor turns to dust. It is not work that makes one prosperous, but the consciousness that governs the work. I have seen two people labor side by side at the same task, one prospering, the other failing, and the difference was not skill but spirit. One worked as a son of God, the other as a servant of fear. Let me share something that may surprise you. The law does not reward the anxious, it rewards the aligned. Toil without trust is barren. Man has built factories and empires and cities, and yet his heart trembles at night because he still believes his survival depends on himself. He has forgotten the first principle of heaven's economy: rest is richer than strain. The lilies of the field neither toil nor spin, and yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The lilies grow because they do not question the soil. They do not compare themselves to the thorns. They simply draw from the same light that shines on all. That is the law of supply in motion, effortless, constant, impartial. I once counseled a man who said, "Florence, I work 12 hours a day and still the money doesn't stretch." I asked him, "What are you thinking while you work?" He said, "I keep saying to myself, if I don't do this, I'll lose everything." I smiled and said, "And the law obeys your words. You are planting fear and reaping struggle." I told him, "Try this for 1 week. As you work, say quietly, 'God works through me. My supply is assured. Everything I do prospers me.'" He returned some days later, astonished. "Florence," he said, "I earned more this week with less effort than ever before." I said, "You stopped fighting the law and let it flow through you. You remembered what you had forgotten, that wealth does not come by might or by power, but by spirit. You see, man's forgetfulness of law is his only poverty. The law never stops working, man simply stops believing. He speaks lack into his affairs and then blames life for reflecting it. He says, "I can't afford this," and the universe says, "Very well." He says, "Money is hard to come by," and the universe answers, "So it shall be." The law is perfectly obedient. It mirrors whatever command you give it. That is why the wise speak only abundance, even when appearances deny it. They know that appearances are late reporters of truth. The word spoken in faith precedes the visible result. Think of the law like a radio wave that never ceases to broadcast. Heaven's signal of supply is always transmitting. You do not create the music, you tune into it, but if you leave the dial turned to static, you will insist that no song exists. Faith is the tuning of consciousness. When you align your thought with divine order, the static clears, and the melody of abundance plays through every part of your life. You will find money appearing from unexpected places, ideas arriving in perfect timing, doors opening with graceful ease. It will feel like coincidence, but it is law. So I say to you, stop struggling to earn what is already yours. Align yourself with the rhythm of the universe. Say often, "God is my unfailing source. I do not earn my good, I express it." Let those words become your new identity. For every time you remember the source, you withdraw from the illusion of limitation. You become again a creator, not a beggar. And if doubt creeps in, do what I have always done. Lift your eyes to the heavens and remember that the same law that lights the stars governs your affairs. The galaxies do not hurry. The seasons do not argue. The tides do not fear the shore. They all obey the same divine pattern the one man has forgotten in his chase for control. Align with that order, and peace will return to your mind, prosperity to your path, and joy to your labor. When you remember the law, you restore your inheritance. You cease being a victim of conditions and become a master of them. You speak, and creation responds. That is the promise, and it never fails. Now that we've remembered where man lost his way, let us return to the power that brings him back to the word that creates worlds. The the original vibration that shapes wealth, the spoken truth that rewrites reality itself. Before the world began, before the stars sang their first light into being, before the planets circled their eternal paths, there was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. And from that single vibration of divine speech, all substance took form. The heavens did not appear through effort, nor were the mountains carved by hands, they were spoken, and in that same likeness, man was created, a living echo of that original voice. Within his tongue lies the same power to form, to dissolve, to command. Every word he speaks sends out a ripple through the unseen, and that ripple gathers matter to itself, shaping experience. Man is not a creature of circumstance, he is a creator by decree, but when he forgets that his speech is divine, he speaks carelessly and calls it conversation. He says, "I am broke," and the law, faithful as ever, rushes to confirm it. He says, "I can't catch a break," and the universe replies, "As you wish." And then he wonders why his life feels small and his hands remain empty. What I am about to tell, you may sound too simple for the complex mind of modern man, but it is the very simplicity that makes it divine. The law of the word is absolute. It cannot fail, because it is the foundation of all creation. Every sentence you speak is an order issued to the invisible. The law does not judge, it obeys. It has no sense of humor, no tolerance for half-belief, no delay in response. It simply reflects your dominant tone, the vibration of your conviction. You may speak health, wealth, peace, or power. The law hears one thing: your certainty. Words spoken without faith are like seeds scattered on rock. They wither before they root. But words spoken with conviction, even once, have the power to move mountains of appearance. I have said before and I will say again, man's word is his wand. With it he draws from the invisible substance the shape of his desire. The moment you say, "I am," you are invoking the divine name, the creative formula of all being. Whatever follows "I am" becomes a command to the universe. If you say, "I am poor," you have spoken poverty into form. If you say, "I am prosperous," you have already summoned your wealth. The law cannot refuse a clearly spoken word. You need not beg, persuade, or explain. The command itself is enough. You were born with that power because you were born from the word. A man once came to me, desperate. His business was failing. Creditors were pressing him. He felt the world collapsing upon him. "Florence," he said, "I've done everything advertised, worked day and night, prayed, but nothing changes." I asked him, "What do you say to yourself each day?" He hesitated. "I keep saying, I can't afford to lose this business." I smiled and said, "Then you have declared loss. You have been speaking fear, not faith. You are commanding what you dread." I gave him a new phrase: "God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply." I told him to speak it not as hope but as fact, not with tension but with rest. He began repeating it every morning and every night, and soon after, a new contract arrived. Old debts cleared. His company, once dying, began to thrive. He told me later, "I stopped fighting, and everything flowed." I said, "No, my dear, you stopped contradicting your own word. Here's something I want you to remember forever. Your word is always working. Even your idle words are seeds. There is no neutral speech in the universe. Every phrase carries energy. Every thought vibrates with consequence. The careless joke, the anxious complaint, the small confession of defeat, each one is a decree disguised as chatter. This is why the wise speak little and speak carefully. They understand that speech is sacred. They do not waste their words on describing what they see. They use their words to create what they choose. Imagine for a moment that your life is a garden, and your words are the seeds. The soil does not decide which to grow, it grows all that is planted. If you sow weeds of fear, they will sprout. If you sow flowers of truth, they will bloom. The gardener who blames the soil for producing thorns forgets that he scattered them. The same is true of your affairs. The harvest of your circumstances is the reflection of yesterday's speech. To change your tomorrow, you must plant new words today. When I speak of the word that creates worlds, I do not mean only spoken language, but also the inner dialogue that hums through your mind all day long. The subconscious listens to every unspoken sentence. It takes your inner murmurs as commands. If you dwell on doubt, you are writing a silent script of limitation. If you rehearse lack, you build its blueprint. But if you fill your inner speech with faith, if your inner conversation says, all that I need is on its way now, under grace, in perfect ways, then the subconscious begins to sculpt that truth into form. The invisible responds to repetition. It yields to certainty. I often tell my students that feeling is the amplifier of the word. The law responds not only to what you say, but to how you say it. When your words are charged with emotion, they vibrate with life. Speak with joy, and joy multiplies. Speak with gratitude, and doors open. Speak with fear, and those same doors close. The word is creative fire, feeling is the fuel that gives it heat. That is why the most powerful prayers are spoken not from desperation, but from thanksgiving. Gratitude announces that the thing you desire is already real in consciousness, and what is real in consciousness must appear in form. There is no delay in divine creation, only in man's acceptance. The instant your word is spoken in faith, the law begins to move. The form may not appear at once because matter is slow to follow spirit, but the invisible structure is already complete. You can rest in that knowing. Say your word, then go about your day as though the matter were already settled. The moment you act from peace instead of panic, you prove your faith, and the law fulfills itself. Now, I know some may ask, Florence, is it truly that simple? Just speak the word and believe? And I will tell you what I have seen over a lifetime of demonstration. It is exactly that simple, but not always that easy, because man loves to complicate truth. He doubts, he analyzes, he waits for evidence before believing. But faith works in reverse, it believes before it sees. The seed believes in spring, though winter still surrounds it. The word spoken in faith must be fulfilled. It cannot return void. Take this teaching as your living practice. From this day forward, let no negative word pass your lips. Speak only what you wish to see. When fear tempts you to confess defeat, turn your word into truth. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, say, the money for this appears now, under grace. Instead of saying, I never get lucky, say, everything works in my favor. Speak. As one who knows the law listens, because it does. The universe is like a perfect recording device. It inscribes every syllable in the fabric of time. The record will play back exactly as you have said it. Choose your soundtrack wisely. Let us seal this section with a spoken decree of power. Say this aloud with me now, slowly, with reverence. My word is the law of my good. I speak with authority, and my words go forth to accomplish what I have sent them to do. They shall not return void, but shall prosper in the thing whereto I send them. I rejoice, for the word and I are one. Feel that as you say it. That vibration, the certainty that rises quietly in your chest, is the echo of the divine command that created the universe. It is your inheritance, your creative right, your birthright as a child of God. And now, as you carry this realization forward, let us move into the next revelation, how this word, once spoken, finds its way into manifestation through the mind itself, the invisible bank of heaven where every belief is deposited, every decree recorded, every supply accounted for. For the word may be divine, but the mind is its treasurer, the sacred vault through which heaven's riches flow into form. When I speak of the law, I do not speak of something cold and mechanical, but of something living and responsive, a power that feels, listens, and remembers. The subconscious mind is that silent servant of the law, the treasurer of heaven's riches, and the keeper of man's words. It records every statement, every belief, every emotion, and translates them into the language of form. You may not see it working, yet it never sleeps. It is the unseen clerk at the window of divine supply, stamping every thought paid in full or held for insufficient faith. It never argues, it only fulfills. You may say to it, I can't afford it, and it will say, very well. You may say, money flows to me freely and endlessly, and it will say, the same. It is perfectly impartial, perfectly obedient. It gives you not what you wish, but what you believe. The subconscious is your silent banker, and the account it manages is your life itself. Whatever deposits you make in thought, it compounds with interest in experience. Many people keep overdrawing from this divine account because they do not watch their deposits. They speak words of fear all day long, then expect a harvest of peace. They declare lack in their conversations, then wonder why their purse grows thin. But the law of this bank is exact. It pays out what you have put in. It cannot lie, and it cannot fail. If you would like to change your balance, you must change your words. If you would like to increase your account, you must deposit daily thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and certainty. You do not need to beg the bank to grow your savings. You simply keep depositing good substance and refuse to withdraw fear. Here's something that will change your life if you will grasp it deeply. The subconscious mind is not hidden from you. It is your own reflection in the still water of spirit. When the water is agitated by worry, you cannot see your face clearly. When it is calm, you can look down and see God looking back. The clearer your inner reflection, the faster your outer demonstration. Every affirmation you speak, every vision you hold, is a ripple on that inner lake. If you speak with fear, the ripples are chaotic, and the picture breaks apart. If you speak with faith, the ripples move in harmony, and the image takes form. That is why I say the subconscious is the treasurer, but your word is the key. You must give it precise orders in the language of certainty, for it will carry out whatever you say in the spirit you say it. I once knew a woman who lived as though pursued by loss. She said to me, "Florence, no matter how much I earn, it disappears." I asked her what words she used when she handled money. She laughed and said, "Oh, I'm always saying, easy come, easy go." I told her gently, "Then the law is obeying you. You are giving your treasurer instructions to remove what arrives. You must speak differently." I gave her a new affirmation. Money comes to me easily and stays with me joyously, multiplying under grace. She practiced it faithfully, speaking it with feeling each time she handled money. Within months, her financial life changed completely. Opportunities stayed, expenses balanced, and her savings began to grow. She came to me radiant and said, "It's as if money likes me now." I said, "Of course it always did. You simply stopped commanding it to leave." The subconscious responds not only to words but to feeling. Feeling is the ink with which thought writes upon the unseen. You may repeat words all day long, but if they are dry, the treasurer cannot read them. But one word spoken with emotion is worth 1,000 spoken without it. When you say, "I am provided for," say it until you feel it. When you affirm, "God's wealth flows through me," let that truth vibrate in your chest until it feels undeniable. The subconscious reads vibration before language. It hears your conviction long before it hears your syllables. Do you know why the law is called divine order? Because it cannot mix confusion with creation. If you give the subconscious two opposing commands, "I am rich" in the morning and "I am worried about bills at night," it must wait until you choose. It cannot serve two masters. It will manifest whichever belief has the strongest feeling attached to it. That is why I tell my students, consistency is the foundation of demonstration. You must be steady in your declarations. Speak your truth until it becomes the only language you know. I often compare the subconscious to a vast spiritual computer, one that never forgets a single command. It keeps perfect records, but unlike a machine, it also carries the breath of God. It can create beyond logic, beyond numbers, beyond the limits of human calculation. It can multiply your good in ways your intellect could never design. But you must feed it the pattern of what you desire. The subconscious cannot invent, it can only reproduce. If you give it the pattern of peace, it will reproduce peace. If you give it fear, it will reproduce chaos. So give it the blueprint of abundance. Give it the design of ease, of faith, of freedom. It will do the rest. Think of it this way. The conscious mind is the architect, the subconscious is the builder, and the universe is the material. The architect draws the plan, the builder follows it exactly, and the material obeys the builder's hand. If the plan is confused, the building will be unstable. If the plan is clear, the structure will be strong. So it is with you. Your conscious thoughts draw the plan. Your subconscious carries it out. The universe supplies the bricks. If your life seems chaotic, do not blame the builder. Redraw the plan. There was once a merchant who could not understand why his business would rise and fall without pattern. He came to me weary, saying, "Florence, every time I get ahead, something happens, a loss, an illness, a delay, and I'm back where I started." I asked him what thoughts he held about success. He said, "I suppose I've always felt it was too good to last." I said, "There is your plan, the blueprint of instability. You have told your treasurer to create fluctuation." I gave him a new decree. My success is permanent because it is rooted in divine law. What is mine by divine right is sustained by divine order. He repeated it daily, and within months his fortune stabilized. He said, "I no longer wait for things to go wrong. I expect them to continue." I smiled and said, "Now your treasurer has new instructions and the law has new material to shape. So if you wish to prosper, begin by watching what you speak and what you feel. The subconscious is not your enemy, it is your most loyal ally. But loyalty without wisdom can be dangerous. Give it wisdom. Teach it to repeat only what you desire to experience. It will not argue, it will not resist. It will obey, as it has obeyed since the beginning. Let me give you a simple practice. Each morning, before rising, say to yourself quietly, "Today my subconscious is filled with divine ideas of prosperity. It acts upon them with accuracy and love. Every word I speak is recorded in heaven and fulfilled in my affairs." Then go about your day calmly, knowing the treasurer is working in silence. At night, before you sleep, say, "The divine substance of supply flows through me. I rest in plenty." These simple words will begin to overwrite the old programming of fear and limitation. Within days, you will notice a shift, doors opening, burdens lightening, peace returning. You are the master of this silent servant. Treat it with respect, speak to it with love, feed it truth, and it will build a life of truth around you. Remember, the treasurer cannot fail, only the commander can forget. Now that you understand how the subconscious manages the wealth of heaven, we will go deeper still. For even when man knows the law, he must learn how to reprogram the old records of doubt that still echo in his mind. Let us move now into that sacred work, the rewriting of the inner ledger, where fear is replaced with faith and the past is balanced in the light of truth. There comes a point in every life when one must sit down quietly with the book of their own mind and see what has been written there. The pages of this inner ledger record every belief, every fear, every judgment ever spoken or thought. It is not God who keeps this record against you, it is your own consciousness, faithfully reflecting what you have accepted as true. Most people never question what fills their account. They live by the balance left by old experiences, by the words of parents, teachers, society, by memories of failure, by shadows of lack. They carry those entries forward into the present and wonder why the numbers never add up to freedom. Yet the law is simple. Whatever you hold in consciousness must express itself in form. If you wish to change the outer result, you must rewrite the inner record. You must erase every false entry and replace it with truth, until the whole book reads, "Paid in full by divine supply." This is not a punishment but a privilege. The law gives man full authority to amend his own account. You cannot go back in time to change the events that happened, but you can change the meaning you have given them. You can say, "That debt I once feared was a teacher. That loss was a seed. That rejection was redirection." Each time you do, you correct the entry. The subconscious immediately obeys and recalculates your balance. What was once a record of limitation becomes a testimony of growth. You do not fight the old, you overwrite it. For what you resist persists, but what you replace dissolves. That is the law of substitution, the most merciful law in the universe. It says that no false belief can survive the presence of truth. When light enters, darkness disappears, not by battle, but by law. Let me tell you how I first discovered this principle. A woman once came to me distressed over years of struggle. "Florence," she said, "every time I make progress, something happens to take it away." I asked her, "What do you say when good things come?" She laughed through her tears and said, "I always say, it's too good to last." There was her ledger, written in her own words. The subconscious had simply been obeying her. I said, "You must give it new instructions. Every time something good happens, say, it's just the beginning. The best is yet to come." She did as I told her, and her whole vibration changed. Within months, not only did her finances stabilize, but unexpected opportunities appeared in every direction. She came to me radiant and said, "The good doesn't stop now, it multiplies." I said, "It was never the world that was withholding from you, it was your old accounting of it. You rewrote the entry, and the law balanced your books." Here's something most people completely miss. Life does not keep records of right or wrong, it only keeps records of vibration. The only sin in divine accounting is forgetfulness of truth. When you remember who you are, a channel of infinite supply, your debt to fear is cancelled. Each time you speak faith instead of worry, you credit your spiritual account. Each time you bless where you once complained, you raise your balance. Each time you forgive where you once resented, you delete an old charge from the past. The ledger clears itself line by line until it glows with the light of freedom. I have told my students for years that words are the pen with which you write upon the subconscious. You may say, "But Florence, I've spoken affirmations for months and nothing has changed." And I will ask, have you spoken them as truth or as hope? Have you felt the meaning, or have you only moved your lips? You cannot overwrite a lie with words alone. You must feel the truth as you say it. Feeling is the ink that makes the words permanent. If your affirmations feel dry, keep speaking until the emotion rises. It may begin as a whisper, a faint spark of belief, but nurture it, and soon it will burn like fire through the old records of doubt. One of my favorite declarations is this: there is no truth in lack. What belongs to me by divine right cannot be lost. I once gave that affirmation to a man who had lost his position and feared he would never recover. I said, say these words every day and imagine your new position already established. See yourself walking in with confidence, hear others congratulating you, feel the satisfaction of right work. Within a short time, he received an offer better than the one he fiver of confidence. Lost. He told me, Florence, it felt as if the universe had simply been waiting for me to believe. I said, it was waiting for you to correct your record. The moment you accepted truth, the debt of doubt was erased. You must become the auditor of your own consciousness. Review the words you speak casually. Money doesn't stick around. Good luck never lasts. I always get left behind. Those are old entries that must be deleted. Replace them with the language of divine order. Money stays and grows in perfect ways. My good is constant and permanent. I am always in my right place, at my right time, doing my right work. Speak them softly but steadily. The subconscious will adjust its calculations and present you with new results. You will see evidence everywhere: bills paid in full, help arriving unexpectedly, new opportunities calling your name. I often think of the subconscious as a faithful bookkeeper working behind the scenes. If you tell it to record loss, it will mark the entry in red. If you tell it to record gain, it will mark the entry in gold. It does not question your orders, it only keeps the books. You, the conscious mind, are the employer, the master accountant. You have full authority to instruct, to amend, to approve. Yet so many go through life without ever checking their accounts. They wonder why blessings bounce back like unpaid checks, not realizing they have issued conflicting instructions, faith in one moment, fear in the next. The law cannot clear a check written in doubt. It waits for your signature of certainty. If you wish to see your affairs transform quickly, begin this day to reconcile your inner accounts. Write down every limiting phrase you've ever spoken, and beside it, write its opposite truth. Where you once said, I'm unlucky with money, write, I am divinely guided to success in all I do. Where you once said, I can't afford this, write, infinite supply meets my every need. Speak these aloud, morning and night, until they feel natural on your tongue. When the old words try to rise again, smile and say, that line has been cleared. Do this faithfully, and you will feel an extraordinary peace settle over you. The peace of knowing your spiritual balance sheet is whole. It is written, every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof. But that is not a warning, it is a promise. You are not punished for your words, you are empowered by them. Each one is an entry you may rewrite at any time. The past has no claim over you unless you choose to keep its books open. Close them now. Speak new decrees of truth, and watch how the divine accountant adjusts every figure in your favor. Let us affirm together, the past is cleared, the old record of lack is erased. Every line of my life now reads abundance, joy, and perfect success. Divine order balances all accounts in my favor. I am free. Say those words until you feel their weight lift from your heart. That lightness you feel is the vibration of new accounting, the sound of old debts dissolving into truth. Your ledger now shines clean, ready for new entries of wealth and peace. And now, as we move onward, I will show you how to energize these new records with living faith, how to charge them with the very electricity of belief, so that they do not merely sit on the page of your mind but spring into form, alive and unstoppable. Faith is the breath of the word. It is the invisible current that gives life to every thought, the secret electricity that animates your decrees and causes them to move through time and matter until they take form. Without faith, words are empty shells. They are letters without light, instruments without breath, seeds without water. But when faith enters a word, it becomes living substance. It becomes creative fire. It becomes the vibration that rearranges the universe to match its sound. When you speak, you are sending signals through an ocean of spiritual energy, and faith is the power that pushes those signals into manifestation. You may have said the right words 100 times, but if they were spoken in doubt, they fall flat against the surface of life and return unanswered. Yet one word, spoken once in perfect faith, moves heaven and earth. Most people think of faith as something they must try to possess, a thing to acquire, like courage or patience. But faith is not something you build, it is something you allow. Faith is the natural state of the soul before fear begins its chatter. Every child is born in faith. He cries and expects the milk to come, and it does. He reaches, believing that what he seeks will be there. Faith is the original knowing of the soul that says, I am supplied because I exist. It is only through experience, disappointment, and fear that man forgets. He learns to depend on effort and to doubt the unseen. And yet, beneath every anxious thought, faith waits like a sleeping lion, ready to rise at the sound of truth. You need not manufacture faith, you need only wake it. Here's something most people completely miss. The universe does not respond to repetition, it responds to conviction. It does not count the number of times you affirm, it listens to the energy with which you speak. You could whisper one line of truth in complete certainty and move more mountains than 1,000 prayers of anxiety. The moment you speak with full belief, the law activates instantly. It is written, when ye pray, believe that ye receive, and ye shall have. The receiving comes not after the believing, but in the very moment of it. Faith does not wait for proof, it produces it. I once knew a woman who came to me holding 2 crumpled dollars, trembling as though they were her last. Florence, she said, I don't know how I'll get through the week. I looked at her gently and said, those $2 are not your supply, they are symbols, bless them. Speak over them, and they will multiply. She hesitated, but she obeyed. She went home and laid the bills upon her table and said aloud, God is my unfailing source. These $2 represent infinite substance, and they multiply now under grace and in perfect ways. She repeated it until she felt peace. Within days, a friend she had not seen in years sent her $6,000, saying, I don't know why, but I felt you needed this. That is the mathematics of faith. It multiplies by spiritual law, not by logic. Faith is the vibration of completion. When you speak in faith, you are not asking for what you do not have. You are acknowledging what already exists in the unseen. The universe responds to your tone as a musician responds to pitch. If you strike the note of certainty, it harmonizes instantly. If you strike the note of fear, it produces dissonance. The melody of creation plays in perfect tune with belief. So if you wish to demonstrate supply, speak in the frequency of already having. Say, it is done, and mean it. Feel the satisfaction before the result appears. The feeling of having is the magnet that draws the form. You may ask, but Florence, how do I cultivate faith when my senses deny it? I will tell you, begin with gratitude. Gratitude is the bridge from fear to faith. You cannot be truly grateful and fearful at the same time. The moment you give thanks for what you have and for what is coming, your vibration rises and faith begins to stir. Say, thank you, God, that my supply is already on the way. Feel the relief of knowing the matter is settled. Each repetition builds momentum until the subconscious accepts it as truth. You will know the change has occurred when your words no longer feel like effort but like fact. That is when the treasurer of heaven begins to issue the payment. Faith also requires rest. The moment you have spoken your word in full belief, you must let it go. Do not pry open the soil to see if the seed is growing. Do not worry the universe with constant checking. Faith is proven by stillness. When you truly believe, you rest. The outer sign of faith is peace. When you can walk through the appearance of lack and still feel calm, you have already won. The demonstration may take form through 100 channels, but its arrival is inevitable. The law never forgets a word spoken in faith. Let me tell you of a merchant I once counseled. He was near ruin, and every night he would pray frantically for rescue. I told him, "Your prayers are filled with fear, and fear cancels faith. Speak once with conviction, and then rest." He did as I advised. One evening he stood in his empty office and said aloud, "God is my instant, constant, and abundant supply. This business is under grace, and it prospers perfectly." Then he went home and refused to worry. The next morning, a long-forgotten customer placed a large order that revived his business completely. He said, "Florence, it felt as if the moment I stopped pleading and started knowing, everything changed." I said, "That was faith. The law had been waiting for your certainty. There is a divine paradox in faith. It is both surrender and command. You do not force, you declare. You do not beg, you align. You speak as one who knows that God's will for you is good and only good. And that knowing gives your words the authority of creation itself. Faith is not shouting louder, it is standing still in complete trust. It is the quiet confidence that says, "It is finished," even while the evidence still looks empty. If you could see the machinery of heaven at work, you would never doubt again. Every thought of faith sends out waves that reorganize circumstances, draw new people, arrange coincidences, dissolve delays. The outer world moves like pieces on a chessboard to bring your word into manifestation. You cannot see it, but you will feel it, tiny signs of alignment, inner nudges, new ease. That is the law responding to your faith. Say this aloud with me now, and say it as one who already knows the truth. The substance of things hoped for is already mine. I have faith in God's unfailing supply. My words are charged with power, and they manifest instantly, under grace, in perfect ways. I rejoice, for the law of faith is now fulfilled in me. Take a deep breath. Feel the calm certainty settle into your body. That stillness is your proof. That peace is the manifestation already forming. And now that your faith is alive and moving, now that you have charged your words with the electricity of belief, you will begin to see the evidence unfold around you. But to keep the flow constant, to keep your blessings multiplying without interruption, you must learn the rhythm of divine circulation, the sacred exchange between giving and receiving, the current of God's abundance as it moves through all creation. So let us move forward now into that mystery, the currency of circulation, the living heartbeat of heaven's wealth code. Everything in creation lives by movement. The planets turn in their appointed paths, the tides rise and fall, the seasons follow one another in gentle procession. Even the human heart, beating faithfully within the body, knows this law. When it stops, life stops. So too does the wealth of spirit move in a living rhythm of giving and receiving, a pulse of divine substance flowing through all that is. The universe does not hoard, it circulates. It gives freely and receives freely. To align with this rhythm is to prosper, to resist it is to decay. Many people fear letting go of money, of opportunities, of relationships, believing that what leaves will never return. But what they call safety is stagnation. The stream that refuses to flow soon turns into a swamp. I have seen those who hoard their goods shrink in spirit and circumstance, while those who give from faith overflow in ways beyond reason. For you cannot dam the river of abundance without blocking your own supply. Here's something most people completely miss. Every act of giving sets in motion a law of return. You cannot outgive God because the very act of release opens channels that must refill. It is written, "Give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." The universe keeps perfect books, nothing is lost. The love you give, the money you share, the kindness you speak, they all go forth like seeds carried by the wind, and they come back multiplied in the season of harvest. Some call it luck, some call it karma, but it is simply divine mathematics. Whatever you release in faith returns tenfold. I remember a woman who came to me years ago when I was teaching in New York. She said, "Florence, I can't pay my rent. I have just $1 to my name." I told her, "Then you must give part of it." She looked at me with disbelief. "Give? But I barely have enough to eat." I smiled and said, "My dear, that dollar is a seed. If you plant it in fear, it will die. But if you plant it in faith, it will multiply." She hesitated, but eventually she gave 50 cents to someone in need and spoke these words, "God is my supply." This seed multiplies now under grace and in perfect ways. Within days, she received an unexpected check for $50. That is how the law works. It cannot fail when obeyed in faith. The giving was not a loss, it was the unlocking of flow. Money is only one expression of this movement. The true substance behind it is spiritual energy, the very essence of life itself. When you bless money, it blesses you. When you fear it, you repel it. I tell my students, never curse money, never say, I can't afford this, or money runs out too fast. Speak instead, money is divine substance. It flows to me and through me without end. Each time you pay a bill, say, I thank God for this opportunity to circulate my wealth. Each time you give, say this, gift returns to me multiplied under grace. In this way, you turn every transaction into worship. You make your life a living altar of abundance, and the law responds by increasing your good. Do not misunderstand me. Giving is not sacrifice. You do not give to lose, you give to live. To give from fear is to drain yourself, but to give from love is to recharge the universe. You do not need to give large amounts. It is not the quantity that matters, but the consciousness behind it. A penny given with joy has more power than a fortune given with reluctance. The widow's mite moved heaven more than the rich man's gold because it was released in faith. Heaven weighs vibration, not denomination. You may say, but Florence, what if I give and nothing returns? I will tell you, nothing can fail to return. The law of circulation never breaks. If you give and see no result, it is not because the law forgot you, it is because you doubted the return. You must give and then let go, trusting that the invisible current will find its way back in the perfect form and the perfect time. Do not watch the door you gave through. The return may come through another. Divine supply has countless channels. The river of abundance can bend, twist, and reroute, but it always finds its way home to the heart that gave in faith. Let me tell you a story that still shines in my memory. A man once came to me seeking advice. He said, Florence, my business is failing. I can't afford to give anything. I said, then you cannot afford not to give. He frowned, uncertain, but I could see the truth stirring within him. I told him to give something, anything with joy, and to speak these words, I give freely, and my gifts return to me multiplied. He obeyed. He began paying his debts in small increments, blessing each payment, saying, this money is released in love and returns to me in kind. Within a few months, his business revived. Orders increased, opportunities appeared, and his attitude changed completely. He said, Florence, every time I send money out now, I feel richer, not poorer. I said, of course, because you are in the flow. You have joined the rhythm of heaven. To live by the law of circulation is to trust that God never forgets an act of generosity. Each blessing sent forth becomes a boomerang of light, circling back with multiplied power. Each time you give, you are not diminishing yourself, you are proving your faith in infinite supply. The river cannot dry up for the one who pours into it. The more you give, the wider your channel becomes, and the more easily the current flows. If you cling to your good in fear, you narrow the opening. But when you release it, you create a vacuum that must be filled. The universe abhors a vacuum. It rushes to fill any space created by trust. I tell my students, live as if you are already rich in spirit, because you are. If you have only a smile to give, give it. If you have only kindness to offer it freely. Every act of giving is a spark of circulation. Even a kind word spoken in love releases invisible wealth into the world. You will find that money begins to follow joy, as surely as a shadow follows light. Say this affirmation with me now, and say it with joy. I am one with the rhythm of divine circulation. What I give in love returns to me multiplied in perfect ways. I am never depleted, for God is my inexhaustible source. The river of life flows through me, and I am rich beyond measure. Pause. Feel the truth of those words. That warmth rising in your heart is the current itself, the flow of divine substance beginning to move through you. From this moment forward, everything you give time, love, money, talent will return in abundance, because you have joined the rhythm that sustains the stars. And now, having understood the power of circulation, let us step into the next great secret of wealth: gratitude, the magnet that multiplies all good, the golden light that draws heaven's riches into visible form. Gratitude is the great magnet of the universe. It is the golden frequency that pulls to you everything that matches its song. It is not a polite gesture or a fleeting emotion, but the very language of heaven itself. When I speak of gratitude, I do not mean the forced courtesy of manners, but the deep inner knowing that everything you have, everything you are, and everything you see is already saturated with divine blessing. Gratitude is the vibration of completion. It declares that what you have desired is already accomplished in spirit, and therefore must appear in form. It is the heart's way of saying, I trust the process. Every grateful thought sends a signal into the invisible and draws back multiplied good. For nothing is more magnetic than a consciousness that appreciates the gifts it has already been given. The ungrateful heart repels its own good, for complaint closes the channel of supply, but gratitude opens the floodgates and allows the current of divine substance to pour through unhindered. Here's something most people completely miss. Gratitude does not wait for evidence, it creates it. People say, I'll be grateful when my bills are paid, when my dreams come true, when life finally gets easier, but they have reversed the law. The condition does not come first, the gratitude does. When you thank God before the answer, you are demonstrating faith, and faith is the currency of creation. Gratitude precedes the harvest, just as spring precedes summer. The farmer thanks the soil when he plants, not when he reaps, because he knows the law will fulfill itself. So too must you thank heaven for what is unseen. The moment you say, thank you, with sincerity, you align yourself with abundance, and the invisible begins its work. Gratitude is not a reaction, it is a cause. I remember a woman who once came to me in despair. Florence, she said, I've lost everything. My husband, my savings, my health. What can I possibly be grateful for? I told her, be grateful that you are still alive and able to speak the word of truth. Be grateful that the power that created you is still within you, ready to restore you. Start there. She looked at me as though I had asked the impossible, but she tried. Each morning she said, thank you, God, that life still moves in me. Thank you that your law still governs my world. Thank you that I am guided and supplied. Within weeks, her health began to improve, then opportunities came for work, and soon her whole life changed. She returned to me one day radiant and said, Florence, I don't know how it happened, but I feel reborn. I smiled and said, it happened because gratitude is resurrection. The moment you gave thanks, you awakened the sleeping law within you. Gratitude is a form of praise, and praise always lifts you to the level of the thing you praise. When you thank God, you rise to meet God. When you thank abundance, you tune your consciousness to the vibration of abundance itself. You cannot thank life for beauty without becoming more beautiful. You cannot thank the universe for wealth without becoming more magnetic to wealth. The grateful heart glows with a warmth that draws good like a sun draws flowers from their seeds. And the miracle of it is that it works instantly. You need not wait a day or an hour. The moment you speak sincere thanks, the energy shifts. The molecules around you begin to rearrange. Doors open, people appear, ideas unfold. It is the most subtle and most powerful magic. There is the alchemy of appreciation. There is a passage in Scripture that says, Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them. Notice the order: he gave thanks before the multiplication, not after. He didn't wait for proof, he created it by thanksgiving. He understood that the act of gratitude activates divine substance, and the invisible must. This is why I tell everyone who desires prosperity, begin by blessing what you already have, however little it seems. Thank your money as you receive it. Thank your meals before you eat them. Thank your work as you perform it. When you bless the small, it becomes great. Gratitude turns crumbs into feasts and shadows into light. The one who blesses always multiplies. Now, some may ask, Florence, how can I be grateful when I am surrounded by problems? And I answer, by seeing those problems as teachers. Every challenge is an opportunity for the law to prove itself. When you thank even the obstacles, you rob them of their power to frighten you. You shift from the vibration of victimhood to the vibration of mastery. Say, I bless this situation, I thank it for showing me where I have doubted my supply, and I now release it into divine order. That single act transforms the energy. The law cannot punish a thankful soul, it must reward it. I tell my students that gratitude is the shortest prayer in the world and the most effective. When you cannot think of any affirmation, simply say, "Thank you." Say it when you rise in the morning. Say it when you face confusion. Say it when you lie down at night. Thank you keeps the current moving. It is the oil that keeps the gears of manifestation turning without friction. You can even thank in advance. Thank God for money before it arrives, for healing before it is visible, for peace before the storm subsides. The subconscious will hear that gratitude and believe the miracle is already done, and so it will be. Once I knew a merchant who began his every day with these words: "Thank you, Infinite Spirit, for the prosperity of this day." Even on mornings when orders were few, he said it. Within a year, his business doubled. He told me, "Florence, I didn't change my methods, only my mindset." I said, "That's because gratitude is method enough. It draws new opportunities like iron draws a magnet." Gratitude also keeps the heart pure. It dissolves envy, it quiets fear, it replaces impatience with peace. You cannot be jealous of another's success when you are genuinely thankful for your own blessings. Gratitude expands the soul's vision until you see good everywhere, even in places where others see lack. When you live in that vibration, life must treat you generously, for you have become generosity itself. Let us practice this now. Close your eyes for a moment and think of one thing, just one that you can thank God for right now. It might be your breath, the light in the room, the fact that you are alive to hear these words. Say quietly, "Thank you." Feel how the air softens around you. Feel how your heart expands. That is the power of gratitude already at work. Now, speak this affirmation with me. I am grateful now. I give thanks before I see, knowing that what I thank God for is already mine. Gratitude fills me, gratitude surrounds me, gratitude multiplies my good. My blessings increase daily, for I live in the atmosphere of appreciation. Take a deep breath and hold that feeling. Gratitude has already begun its work. It is moving through the invisible, drawing your good from every direction. You will see it soon in money, in friendship, in health, in perfect timing. Gratitude has no limits. It is the voice of heaven echoing through human lips. And now that you have learned the magnetic art of thanksgiving, let us go even deeper into this divine rhythm. To the practice of blessing, the conscious act of honoring every channel of supply, every person, every opportunity that carries God's abundance to you. For what you bless, blesses you back, and what you curse, you keep bound. Let us move now into that revelation, the sacred power of blessing your channels of supply. There is a spiritual law so gentle that many overlook it, yet so powerful that it can transform every relationship, every transaction, every business, and every day of your life. It is the law of blessing. To bless something is to recognize the presence of God within it. It is to call forth the divine potential that already exists but may be hidden beneath the surface. Blessing is not flattery, it is creative acknowledgement. It says, "I see through the appearance to the truth." And in that moment of recognition, you lift the thing you bless to a higher vibration, and because you are one with it, you are lifted as well. This is why I tell my students, bless your channels of supply. Bless your employer, your customers, your clients, your bills, your debts, your money, your very hands. Bless them all, for they are the visible instruments through which the invisible law expresses itself. When you bless, you expand. When you curse, you contract. The one who blesses sees abundance. The one who criticizes sees lack. The difference between the two is the difference between heaven and struggle. So many people live in unconscious complaint. They curse their jobs while expecting promotion. They resent their clients while demanding more business. They grumble over their bills while praying for more money. They do not realize that every negative word they speak about the channels of their good is a command to shut them down. The law cannot bring prosperity through what you condemn. You cannot receive from a source you secretly despise. If you say, "I hate my work," you have cursed the very instrument that could have multiplied your wealth. But the moment you bless it, it becomes fertile ground. The smallest job can become a fountain of prosperity if approached with thanksgiving and love. I remember a man who once came to me complaining about his employer. He said, "Florence, my boss never appreciates me, and my work feels meaningless." I told him, "Stop cursing your job and start blessing it. Every morning before you enter the office, say, 'I bless this place. I bless my employer. I bless the money that flows through this company. I am a channel of divine service, and I am richly rewarded under grace and in perfect ways. He looked skeptical but obeyed. Within weeks, the atmosphere in his office shifted. His employer, who had once ignored him, began to praise his efforts. Soon he was offered a higher position with better pay. "Florence," he said, "it's as if the whole place changed." I smiled and said, "It wasn't the place that changed, it was your vibration. You lifted the channel by blessing it, and the law lifted you with it. To bless is to align yourself with the creative principle of the universe. God blessed creation and called it good, and in that declaration, He established the pattern for all time. When you bless, you echo that original act of divine recognition. You are saying, 'I behold the good here, and I call it forth into manifestation.' Blessing has no limit. You can bless your body, your family, your city, your bank account, even the world itself. Each blessing sends a ripple of harmony through the collective consciousness, and those ripples always return multiplied. Let me tell you a story from my own life. There was a time when one of my students fell into financial hardship. She worked for an employer who paid her poorly and spoke to her unkindly. She said to me, "Florence, I can't bear it anymore." I said, "Then bless him." She looked startled. "Bless him? He's the reason I'm miserable." I said, "Precisely. You cannot change what you resent, but you can transform it through blessing." I gave her these words: "I bless this man with love and release him to his highest good. Divine love now establishes the perfect conditions between us." She began to speak that decree daily, even when her heart resisted. Within a short time, her employer unexpectedly resigned, and she was promoted to his position. She said to me laughing, "Florence, the blessing removed him, but I'm the one who was lifted." I said, "The law always finds the perfect solution when love leads." Blessing money is equally powerful. Every time you handle money, say, "I bless this money," and see it multiplying under grace and in perfect ways. Never speak of money as scarce or difficult. Speak of it as divine substance, fluid and faithful. Each coin, each bill, each number in your account is a carrier of spiritual energy, and it responds to the tone you give it. When you bless it, you magnetize it. When you complain, you repel it. The person who blesses money will never lack, for blessing establishes friendship between you and your supply. Money, like any living thing, thrives on love and withers under fear. This law extends even to your debts and bills. Instead of dreading them, bless them. Say, "I bless this bill," and see it paid in full by divine substance. I am grateful for the service it represents, and I release it in joy. In doing this, you neutralize the vibration of fear and replace it with the vibration of faith. The law then opens new channels for payment, often in ways you could not imagine. I have seen bills dissolve, debts forgiven, and new income appear through this simple practice. The outer condition always reflects the inner tone, and the tone of blessing is irresistible to abundance. Blessing also transforms human relationships, especially in business. I once told a merchant whose sales were declining to bless every customer who entered his shop. "Say to yourself," I told him, "this person brings increase. I bless them with love, peace, and prosperity." He did so, and soon his shop was thriving. He said, "Florence, even people who used to walk past my door now come in smiling," I said, "because they feel the vibration of blessing before they even step inside." You have turned your business into a temple of prosperity. When you bless, you rise above competition, for blessing sees no rivals. It recognizes one infinite source flowing through infinite channels. You no longer fear others' success. You rejoice in it, knowing that their prosperity confirms the abundance of the whole. You begin to live in the consciousness of unity, where every blessing you give another becomes your own. You stop grasping for wealth and start creating it simply by being a center of divine generosity. Say this affirmation with me now, and say it with the rhythm of conviction. I bless every channel of my good. I bless my work, my money, my relationships, and my opportunities. All that concerns me is divinely blessed and multiplies now under grace. What I bless, blesses me, and I am surrounded by increase on every side. Pause, and feel the expansion that follows. That warmth spreading in your chest is the energy of blessing already moving through you, dissolving resistance, clearing the path, and inviting new flow. From this moment forward, let your words be instruments of blessing. When you meet anyone, silently say, "I bless you with peace." When you pay for something, say, "I bless this exchange." When you think of your dreams, say, "I bless their fulfillment." Make blessing a habit, and watch your life transform into a continuous miracle. For blessing is the breath of love made visible, and love is the wealth of heaven in motion. And now that we have spoken of the flow, the gratitude, and the blessing that sustain abundance, we must look into the quiet law that governs its rhythm, the divine timing of all things, the perfect order by which heaven releases its treasures. For just as the tide comes and goes with precision, so does every answered prayer arrive at its appointed hour. Let us go on now to that holy understanding, the invisible laws of divine timing and trust. There is a rhythm beneath all things, a cadence so ancient and perfect that even the stars still move in obedience to it. Every dawn, every tide, every unfolding petal, every birth and transformation obeys the same invisible order. This rhythm is the law of divine timing, and it governs not only the turning of galaxies but the unfolding of your own good. Nothing in heaven or on earth ever arrives too late or too soon. It comes precisely when the vibration is ready to receive it. The spirit within you is never hurried, never uncertain, never delayed. It knows the appointed hour for every answer, every manifestation, every miracle. Man calls it waiting, but heaven calls it preparation. Man calls it delay, but heaven calls it divine orchestration. The truth is simple yet profound. There are no delays in spirit, only divine appointments. Most people struggle against this law because they measure time by clocks and calendars, not by consciousness. They say, "I've prayed for weeks, for months, for years, and nothing has happened." But the law of divine timing does not answer by chronology, it answers by readiness. When your faith reaches its full maturity, when your fear has been dissolved, when your inner vibration matches the good you seek, then and only then does the form appear. The harvest cannot ripen before the seed is full grown. You may stand in the field impatiently, but your impatience will not change the sun or the soil. The only thing your worry can do is weaken the roots. So instead of fretting over time, nourish your faith, water it with gratitude, let divine wisdom handle the schedule, and you will find that your supply comes not a moment too early nor a breath too late. Here's something most people completely miss. What you call waiting is often grace. Heaven delays not to punish but to perfect. If the answer came before your consciousness could hold it, you might lose it. The law gives only what you can sustain. A cup cannot hold the ocean, but the ocean can patiently carve a cup wide enough to receive it. Many people ask for wealth while still believing in lack. They would sabotage their own demonstration. Others ask for love while clinging to fear, or for opportunity while resenting work. The delay is mercy, not denial. It gives you time to grow into the vibration of what you have asked for. The moment you match it, the door swings open effortlessly. I remember a woman who once came to me weeping. "Florence," she said, "I've prayed for money, but it never comes in time. It's always too late." I told her, "Nothing of God is ever late. Spirit is punctual to the second. If something seems delayed, it means your preparation is still unfolding." I gave her this affirmation: I am always in my right place at my right time. What I need comes to me now, under grace, in perfect ways. She spoke it daily, and something marvelous happened. Her rent, which she had feared she could not pay, was miraculously covered at the exact hour it was due. Not early, not late, perfectly on time. She came to me astonished and said, "It felt like heaven waited until the last moment just to teach me trust." I said, "It wasn't heaven that waited, it was your faith that ripened." The law of divine timing teaches you the art of trust. It trains the mind to let go of urgency and dwell in peace. The impatient soul vibrates at the frequency of fear, but the patient one rests in the assurance of order. The very moment you stop striving, things begin to move. When you declare, "I rest in divine order," you align yourself with the universal clock, whose hands never miss their mark. You cease fighting the current and begin floating with it. And in that surrender, miracles flow easily. I once told a merchant who feared losing his business, "The money you need is already on its way. It will arrive at the perfect moment, hold your peace." He tried to believe, but worry kept creeping in. The deadline approached, and he felt panic rising. I told him, "Faith is trusting God even at 5 minutes to midnight." He nodded and decided to stand firm. On the very morning his payment was due, a long-forgotten customer appeared with a large order and full deposit. He came to me shouting, "Florence, I thought it was over, but the money arrived in the final hour." I said, "That was divine timing, not chance. Spirit was teaching you that heaven never misses its cue. If you could see the invisible choreography that arranges your blessings, you would be in awe. There are people being moved into position right now to help you. Opportunities being woven together behind the curtain of your sight, paths clearing that you will soon walk upon. The outer delay is the inner alignment. The law is synchronizing infinite details for your good. While you are waiting, the universe is building bridges. While you are resting in faith, invisible messengers are carrying your decree to every corner of creation. Do not confuse divine timing with inaction. It does not mean you do nothing, it means you act when led, not when panicked. The intuitive nudge that says, now will always come, and it will come in peace. There will be no rush, no fear, no strain. The doors will open smoothly, and what you do will prosper effortlessly. Timing is the rhythm of grace, and grace never forces. There is a simple practice that aligns you instantly with this rhythm. Each morning, before you begin your day, say softly, "Infinite Spirit, arrange my schedule today. Let me be at the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing, with the right people, under grace and in perfect ways." Then release the day into divine order. You will notice how perfectly events unfold. Delays will reveal hidden blessings, interruptions will lead to divine encounters. The outer world will begin to move in harmony with your inner stillness. Patience in truth is not waiting, it is quiet faith in motion. It is not sitting still in despair but walking calmly in confidence. It is the sacred art of knowing that God's clock runs by love, not fear. When you understand that, you will never again call yourself delayed or denied. You will say, instead, "My good is on schedule, and I am ready to receive it." Say this affirmation with me now, and feel it as you speak. I live in divine timing. Every step I take is perfectly ordered. What I need appears when I need it, neither early nor late. I trust the rhythm of the universe, for the law of God is always on time. Pause and breathe. Feel how those words settle into your being like a steady heartbeat. That rhythm you feel, that quiet assurance, is divine timing in action. From this moment forward, you will see how everything begins to align with grace. And now that we have come to peace with time itself, we must learn how to maintain that peace when life seems to push against us. For the next law is the law of non-resistance, the art of flowing rather than fighting, of turning every obstacle into an instrument of good. Let us go there now, to the gentle strength that wins without struggle. There is a secret strength that belongs only to the soul that has ceased to struggle. It is not the strength of defiance or domination, but of divine composure, the quiet authority of one who knows that life cannot oppose them because they are one with life itself. This is the art of non-resistance, the law that dissolves conflict, the power that melts obstacles without effort, the invisible grace that turns enemies into friends and delays into blessings. Most people believe they must fight to survive, resist what they fear, and struggle against what they dislike. They think resistance is power, but in truth, resistance drains power. The moment you oppose, you bind yourself to the very condition you wish to escape. Whatever you resist, you reinforce. Whatever you bless, you transform. The law of non-resistance does not mean passivity, it means mastery. It is the gentle hand that redirects the current instead of trying to dam it. Imagine a river meeting a rock. It does not curse the stone or attempt to break it apart by force. It simply flows around it, patient and untroubled, knowing that time itself will wear the stone smooth. In the same way, the soul that practices non-resistance flows around appearances, allowing the law to do the work. It says, "This too shall pass," for it is not part of the divine plan. It refuses to fight shadows, and so the light shines through. When you cease pushing against life, you discover that life was never pushing against you. It was waiting for your surrender, so that it could carry you forward. Here's something most people completely miss. Resistance is disguised fear. When you find yourself saying, "I can't accept this," what you are really saying is, "I don't believe the law can handle this." And that disbelief is what keeps the problem alive. The moment you let go, the energy shifts. It is written, "Agree with thine adversary quickly." That does not mean to condone evil, but to remove your emotional charge from it. Agreement is spiritual neutrality. It says, I will not feed this appearance with fear. When you stop feeding the problem, it starves. When you bless it, it dissolves. I remember a woman who once came to me deeply troubled by a lawsuit. She said, Florence, this man is unjust. I must fight him. I told her, do not fight bless. She looked astonished. Bless him? He's my enemy, I said. Bless him precisely because he's your enemy. Every opponent is an opportunity for your faith to demonstrate itself. Say this, I bless this man with love and release him to his highest good. Divine justice now governs this situation under grace and in perfect ways. She obeyed, though reluctantly. The next time I saw her, she was radiant. Florence, she said, the case was dropped and the man apologized. He even said he didn't know why he was so angry with me. I said, you withdrew your resistance. The law did the rest. Non-resistance is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It requires tremendous faith to stand still when everything in you wants to fight. But standing still in faith is not inaction, it is alignment. When you stand still, you become a channel through which divine wisdom can move. The moment you stop struggling, the right action reveals itself. The answer you could not force suddenly comes easily, for you have removed the block. Resistance is tension, and tension closes the channel. Relaxation opens it. In the stillness of non-resistance, guidance comes like a whisper, and the way forward unfolds as naturally as a flower opens to light. I tell my students often, you can either prove the law or argue with it, but you cannot do both. The argumentative mind says, this shouldn't be happening, and the law says, as you wish. The trusting mind says, even this shall serve my good. And the law rearranges conditions to make it so. The difference is not in the event, but in the attitude. The same storm that destroys one man's house waters another man's field. Non-resistance turns adversity into advantage. It is the alchemy of grace that transforms every trial into triumph. Think of the Christ, who said, resist not evil. He did not mean to ignore injustice, but to transcend its vibration. When you resist, you meet darkness on its own level and thus sustain it. When you rise above it, you dissolve it. Non-resistance does not invite defeat, it invites miracle. The silent prayer of Thy will be done is not surrender to loss, it is surrender to divine intelligence, which always chooses the highest good. The moment you release your need to control, the infinite mind can take over. It has ways and means that your limited vision cannot imagine. Let me tell you another story. A merchant once told me that he had a competitor who constantly tried to undercut his business. He said, Florence, I am furious. I'll fight him if I must. I said, do not fight him, bless him. Say, what is mine by divine right cannot be taken from. What is not mine cannot stay. Infinite Spirit prospers both of us, according to divine law. He looked doubtful but agreed. Within a few weeks, his competitor unexpectedly moved to another city, leaving him in peace and prosperity. The man came to me amazed and said, I didn't lift a finger. I smiled and said, that's what happens when you stop using fists and start using faith. To live in non-resistance is to live like the wind, soft, unseen, yet unstoppable. It passes through walls, around obstacles, over mountains, and still arrives at its destination. You must learn to trust that same invisible wisdom to carry you. When an obstacle arises, say, Infinite Spirit, show me the easy and perfect way around this. The answer will come swiftly, because you have not blocked it with fear. There will always be a smooth path, but you can only see it from peace. Let this become your practice. Whenever something disturbs you, pause before reacting. Take a slow breath and say, I do not resist this situation. I put it in the hands of infinite love and wisdom. Feel how instantly the tension eases. That is the law responding to your surrender. It does not require time, it only requires trust. As you practice, you will notice miracles unfolding, people softening, conditions improving, opportunities appearing where there seemed to be none. The outer world rearranges itself around your inner peace. Say this affirmation with me now, and let it flow like water through your soul. I do not resist. I release all to infinite love and wisdom. Every situation is now dissolved or transformed for my highest good. I flow in divine order, and all is well. Breathe deeply as you speak it. Feel the peace that follows. That calm is not emptiness, it is the power of the universe at rest within you. The moment you enter that state, the law begins to work unhindered, and what once looked impossible becomes inevitable. And now, having learned to flow instead of fight, to bless instead of battle, to release instead of resist, we come to the next revelation, the peace that multiplies supply, the divine serenity that is both the sign and the source of prosperity. For when the heart is still, heaven can speak, and its first word is always abundance. Peace is the atmosphere in which all true prosperity grows. It is the quiet garden where the seeds of faith take root, where divine ideas flower without strain, where substance flows effortlessly into form. Without peace, even the greatest words of truth lose their creative power, for agitation scatters their energy and worry cancels their vibration. Peace is not the absence of movement, but the presence of perfect order. It is that deep inner knowing that all is well because the law is working, even when the senses cannot yet see it. When you learn to live in this stillness, you find that supply multiplies without effort. You no longer chase opportunities, they find you. You no longer beg for doors to open, they swing wide at your approach. For the universe recognizes its own calm in you and yields to it. Here's something most people completely miss. Prosperity is not a product of effort, but of atmosphere. Your outer world grows according to the climate of your inner world. When the mind is stormy with fear and resentment, nothing can take root. But when it is calm, the soil of consciousness becomes fertile, and the law rushes to produce. The anxious person blocks their good as surely as a clenched hand cannot receive a gift. Yet the peaceful person, even in apparent lack, carries an invisible magnetism that draws abundance naturally. This is why it is written, "Be still, and know that I am God." Stillness is not idleness, it is supreme awareness. It is knowing that everything you desire already exists in divine substance, waiting only for your recognition. I remember a merchant who once came to me in great distress. His business had slowed, his accounts were empty, and his heart was full of fear. "Florence," he said, "I don't sleep. I can't think. I'm losing everything." I looked at him and said, "You are not losing anything but your peace, and that is the very thing that creates your wealth." He stared at me, not understanding. "How can I be calm when everything is falling apart?" I said, "Because things fall apart only when you believe that outer conditions control you, but you control the conditions by your inner calm. Stop fighting appearances and return to peace, and the law will restore order." I gave him an affirmation. God's peace now fills my heart and mind. Divine order governs my business and my life. All that is mine by right appears easily, joyously, and in perfect ways. He repeated it morning and night, and within 2 weeks, new orders began to arrive. His face, once tense, glowed with serenity. He said, "It's strange, Florence, once I stopped worrying, everything began to move again." I said, "Not strange at all, that is the law of peace. It multiplies supply because it removes resistance. Peace is the evidence of faith fulfilled. The moment you feel that deep calm, know that your word has already been heard and answered. Worry is proof of doubt. Peace is proof of manifestation. When the heart rests, the law works. I tell my students often, do not confuse busyness with creation. The lilies do not labor, yet they bloom. The planets do not fret, yet they keep their courses. The universe moves in absolute serenity, and so must you if you wish to mirror its abundance. Prosperity is the result of spiritual rhythm, and peace is that rhythm made audible in the heart. To cultivate this peace, you must train your mind as you would a child. When fear begins to speak, do not argue. Gently replace it. Say, "Peace, be still." Speak to your own thoughts as Christ spoke to the storm. He did not rebuke the waves with effort but with authority. The storm did not cease because he fought it. It ceased because he knew it could not defy divine law. The sea recognized the vibration of its own creator. Your affairs will do the same. When you speak peace with conviction, every condition must obey. You may ask, "But Florence, how can I feel peace when I have bills to pay, mouths to feed, problems pressing on every side?" And I will tell you, peace does not come after resolution, it is the resolution. Peace is the door through which the solution enters. The moment you still the mind, intuition awakens, ideas flow, and opportunities appear. You will suddenly know what to do and when to do it. Spirit cannot guide a restless heart any more than sunlight can reflect on a churning sea. Calm the waters, and the image of heaven appears. One of my favorite affirmations for peace is simple but powerful. I am anchored in divine calm. Nothing and no one can disturb the peace of my soul. I have seen this statement dissolve conflict, heal illness, and even attract money, because peace restores the proper vibration for all good. When you live in peace, you send out a silent message to the universe: I trust you. And the universe, hearing its own language of harmony, rushes to confirm it. Let me share another example. A woman once told me that she had been waiting for a large sum of money owed to her, but had grown anxious because it was delayed. She said, I can't rest until it arrives. I said, my dear, it will not arrive until you rest. She laughed through her worry, but she understood. She began practicing stillness, sitting each morning for a few minutes to breathe and affirm, God's order is perfect, and I am in it. Within days, the payment arrived unexpectedly. It was as if the delay vanished overnight, she said. I replied, it did vanish the moment you stopped seeing it as a delay. Peace was your payment, the money was just its echo. Peace also multiplies supply because it dissolves fear of loss. The peaceful person knows that nothing real can be taken, and nothing unreal can be kept. They live in a quiet security that magnetizes prosperity. Money flows to them as naturally as breath flows through the lungs. They do not chase opportunities, they attract them through calm assurance. Even their presence brings comfort to others, for peace radiates. It is the highest currency in the universe. There is no true wealth without peace. You may gather fortunes, but if your heart trembles with worry, you are still poor. But a single day lived in deep contentment is a taste of heaven itself. Therefore, make peace your priority, and everything else will follow. Seek ye first the kingdom of stillness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Let us affirm together, the peace of God now floods my consciousness. I am still, and know that divine order governs all. Every appearance of disorder dissolves now into harmony. My wealth multiplies in peace, my success flows in serenity, and my life unfolds in divine ease. Breathe those words in, and as you do, imagine them spreading like light through your body, your mind, your affairs. That glow you feel is the vibration of peace, establishing itself in you, forming the invisible pattern for your next blessing. And now, having found rest in the law, having learned that peace is both the seed and the fruit of prosperity, we shall take the next step beyond the inner stillness into the active living of divine order. For once the blocks are cleared and the timing trusted, there remains only one thing: to live as the open channel of heaven's wealth, to become not merely a receiver of good, but its radiant distributor. Let us move now into that understanding the art of living as the channel of divine supply. There is a sacred moment in every soul's journey when it suddenly realizes that it has never truly lacked, that every breath it has ever taken has been provided for before the need arose, that every step it has ever walked was supported by the invisible floor of divine love. In that moment of awakening, the restless desire for more begins to fade, and peace takes its place. This is the consciousness of enough. It is not the cold resignation of one who settles for less, but the radiant awareness of one who finally sees that they already live in the midst of plenty. To say, I have enough, is not to limit yourself, it is to open the door to unlimited supply. For heaven never pours more water into a cup that is already overflowing with anxiety, but it fills endlessly the vessel that rests in gratitude. Most people live as beggars at a banquet. They look at the feast of life and believe that abundance belongs to others, the rich, the lucky, the chosen, while they are left to scrape from the crumbs of circumstance. But the truth is that the banquet is not around them, it is within them. The food on the table, the clothes on the back, the roof overhead, these are symbols, not sources. The real feast is consciousness, the state of inner sufficiency that knows, I am cared for, I am guided, I am supplied. When you live from that knowing, every outer thing you need arrives, because you are no longer vibrating lack. You have shifted from pleading to possession, from grasping to gratitude, from fear to faith. Here's something most people completely miss. When you declare that you have enough, you are not cutting yourself off from increase, you are aligning yourself with it. The law of divine supply does not reward craving, it responds to contentment. It cannot fill what appears full of need. When you say, I already have enough, you are declaring trust in divine order, and that trust expands your borders. The very attitude of satisfaction multiplies what you have, for the universe mirrors your faith. It hears your serenity and sends more of what matches it. The one who chases money sends out the vibration of lack, and lack returns. But the one who rests in sufficiency sends out the vibration of plenty, and plenty rushes to meet it. I remember a woman who once told me, "Florence, I never seem to get ahead. I earn more, but it's never enough." I said, "Then you must stop saying, 'never enough.' You are commanding the law to keep you wanting. Begin saying, 'I have enough now,' and it multiplies daily." She laughed and said, "But Florence, what if it's not true?" I said, "Say it until it becomes true. The law does not check your bank account, it checks your belief." She obeyed, and within a short time, she began to notice unexpected blessings, a forgotten refund, a gift from a friend, a discount at the store. She came to me one day glowing and said, "I haven't earned more, but somehow everything stretches. It feels like life is cooperating with me." I said, "It always was. You simply stopped telling it you were poor." To live in the consciousness of enough is to trust the rhythm of provision. It is to know that what you need next will appear next, that there is always enough for this day and for every day that follows. When the Israelites wandered in the desert, they were given manna each morning, and those who tried to hoard it found it spoiled. The lesson was clear: divine supply is daily, fresh, and sufficient. You need not store tomorrow's blessings, you need only expect them. Faith is a living stream, not a stagnant pond. The moment you try to trap it, it loses its life. But if you let it flow, it renews itself endlessly. Say to yourself each morning, "Everything I need today is already provided. Infinite intelligence goes before me and prepares the way. My supply is perfect, my timing divine, and my peace unbroken." As you say it, you will feel a subtle shift, a relaxation, a sigh of relief, as though your soul itself is leaning back into the arms of the infinite. That feeling is truth recognizing itself. That is the consciousness of enough taking root. It will begin to show in your outer life, perhaps as ease in paying a bill that once frightened you, or as a quiet joy in simple things, or as new channels of income opening without strain. The greedy mind, forever grasping, can never know this peace. Greed is simply fear pretending to be ambition. It says, "I must have more to feel safe," and the law, hearing the vibration of fear, ensures that safety is always just out of reach. But the grateful mind, which declares, "I already have enough," radiates safety, and so safety becomes its experience. The one who feels rich, though their purse seems small, soon finds their purse expanding. But the one who feels poor, though surrounded by gold, never stops hungering. Consciousness, not circumstance, determines the experience of wealth. Let me tell you a secret that will free you. Heaven measures abundance not by quantity, but by quality of peace. The man who wakes each day with a heart full of trust, who eats his bread in contentment, who gives joyfully, who rests in divine order, that man is rich beyond the counting of coins. His wealth cannot be taken, for it is not stored in banks but in the vibration of his being. It is written, "The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it." That is the wealth of enough abundance without anxiety, possession without pride, increase without effort. I tell my students often, you cannot hold your good with a clenched fist. The moment you relax your grip, everything begins to multiply. To declare "I have enough" is to open your hand to receive. It is to say to the universe, "I trust you." And trust is the most magnetic force in existence. The consciousness of enough does not hoard or fear. It gives freely because it knows there is always more where that came from. It blesses others without calculating loss, for it understands that giving is simply another form of receiving. Now, let us affirm together and speak it as a truth already fulfilled. I have enough. Now, I live in the abundance of the present moment. Every need is met, every desire is fulfilled, and every blessing flows in divine order. I give thanks for my sufficiency, and in that gratitude, my supply multiplies. Pause and breathe. Feel the calm satisfaction that those words awaken. That stillness is your connection to the infinite storehouse of heaven. Hold that feeling, and you will notice how quickly it begins to reproduce itself in the visible world. The consciousness of enough is the foundation of every other law of wealth, for without it, gratitude cannot deepen, circulation cannot continue, and giving becomes duty instead of delight. When you know you already have enough, you move through life as a giver, not a seeker. You become the source through which heaven pours its riches into the world. And that brings us to the next practice, the daily alignment with this law, the rhythm by which we keep our minds tuned to heaven's frequency so that the flow never ceases. Let us go now into that sacred practice, the daily discipline of alignment with divine supply. There is a quiet rhythm that governs the soul, a sacred pulse that beats beneath the noise of every day, and when you learn to move with that rhythm, life itself begins to unfold in perfect order. This is the practice of daily alignment, living consciously attuned to the infinite source that breathes through you. Alignment is not a thing you achieve once. It is a relationship you renew moment by moment. It is the art of remembering who you are before the world tempts you to forget. Each sunrise offers a clean slate, each breath another opportunity to declare, I live in divine order. When you begin to live in this awareness, your days cease to feel random or chaotic. They begin to hum with meaning, each hour synchronized to the unseen intelligence that governs the galaxies. The first secret of daily alignment is to start every morning by establishing connection before you move into motion. The world will always hurry you toward its noise, but power is born in stillness. Before your feet touch the floor, close your eyes and speak to the infinite within you. You do not need elaborate rituals or complex prayers. Simple words, spoken with belief, will open the gates of heaven. Say softly, Infinite Spirit, I give this day to you. Move through me, think through me, work through me. Let every word I speak and every action I take be guided by your perfect wisdom. Then be silent for a moment and listen. That silence is not empty, it is alive. In that stillness, divine ideas begin to form, unseen currents align, and what you call intuition begins to whisper. You may feel a subtle warmth in your heart or a calm certainty that replaces anxiety. That is alignment already beginning. When you rise from that communion, carry it into everything you do. Let each act become a continuation of prayer. When you wash your hands, feel as though you are cleansing your mind of doubt. When you dress, affirm, I am clothed in divine protection and prosperity. When you eat, bless your food and imagine it filled with the substance of life. Even in ordinary tasks, keep a thread of awareness running quietly in the background. God goes before me. God works through me. God provides for me. The power of daily alignment is not in grand gestures, but in consistent awareness. You do not need to force your mind into holiness. You simply need to remind it of truth. Here's something most people completely miss. Alignment is not about doing more. It's about doing from the right consciousness. A single word spoken in alignment accomplishes more than 1,000 spoken in fear. When you act from your connection to the divine, your smallest efforts become charged with infinite power. You may send one email, make one call, take one step, and it will open 10 doors, because the law magnifies what is done under grace. You will find yourself meeting the right people, hearing the right ideas, and arriving at the right places, not by effort but by resonance. The aligned soul does not chase, it attracts. It does not push, it allows. During the day, pause often to realign. You do not need to stop your work or sit in meditation. A simple inward shift is enough. Take a breath and silently say, peace, be still. That small act of remembrance brings you back to the vibration of heaven. I do this many times a day. When I sense tension creeping in, or when an unexpected challenge arises, I stop for a heartbeat and say, Infinite Spirit, I put this situation in your hands. Almost immediately, the heaviness lifts, and what felt complicated becomes simple again. You will find that life's interruptions become invitations to deeper faith. Each pause resets the rhythm. Each moment of surrender strengthens your alignment. The evening is just as sacred as the morning. As night approaches, release the day entirely. Before you sleep, take a few quiet minutes to review the events of your day with gratitude. Do not dwell on what went wrong. Bless it and let it go. Say, I give thanks for all that was good and release all that was not. Divine order governs this day, and I rest in peace. If something still troubles you, speak it into the light. Infinite Spirit, I cast this burden upon you, and I go free. Then close your eyes and imagine the weight lifting off your heart like mist dissolving into sunlight. Sleep will come easily, for peace will be your pillow. And as you sleep, the subconscious, the treasurer of heaven, will go to work, arranging, aligning, balancing every detail according to your last decree. You will awaken, renewed, for the night has worked miracles while you rested. There is another dimension to daily alignment that I wish to share. It is the discipline of joy. Joy is not frivolous, it is spiritual seriousness. It is the recognition that heaven is not somewhere you will go, but something you can experience now. When you allow yourself to feel joy, you become magnetic to all that is good. Joy is the fragrance of alignment, the proof that your soul is in tune with the divine. Sing if you feel inspired, smile for no reason, find beauty in small things. The moment you do, you lift the vibration of your whole being, and that vibration calls forth more joy, more peace, more supply. One of my students once asked me, "Florence, what do I do when I fall out of alignment?" I said, "Do not scold yourself, realign. The law does not punish you for forgetting. It simply waits for you to remember. The moment you remember, you are back in harmony." The divine mind holds no grudges, keeps no score. Its nature is perpetual forgiveness. Think of it like a compass. No matter how far you wander, the needle always points home. Your only task is to look and follow. Let me give you a simple daily formula that never fails. In the morning, gratitude. At noon, faith. In the evening, release. Gratitude opens the channel. Faith keeps it flowing. Release keeps it clear. If you practice these 3 states daily, your life will become an unbroken circle of manifestation. Gratitude says, "I already have." Faith says, "It is working." Release says, "It is done." And the law responds with perfect accuracy. Now let us seal this section with a living affirmation, speak it aloud, and feel every word as truth. Each day I wake aligned with divine order. Infinite Spirit moves before me and prepares my way. My thoughts are clear, my actions inspired, my results perfect. Every moment is guided by love, and I am safe in God's rhythm. Morning, noon, and night, I rest in divine alignment. Breathe slowly and deeply. That calm that fills you now is the very vibration of alignment, the music of heaven playing quietly through your soul. If you carry it into your days, everything you touch will prosper, every door you knock upon will open, every step you take will fall upon prepared ground. And now, having learned to align with this law each day, to live in harmony with the unseen rhythm of supply, we move to the final crown of divine prosperity, the law of service, the art of giving back, of letting the riches that flow through you become blessings that multiply through others. For abundance that is not shared grows stagnant, but abundance that serves becomes eternal. Let us go now into the great revelation of service, the crown jewel of heaven's wealth. There comes a point in every soul's growth where the desire to receive transforms into the desire to give, where the joy of having is surpassed by the joy of sharing, where one's own good is no longer enough unless it becomes the good of many. This is the final revelation of wealth, the understanding that true prosperity cannot be possessed. It must be circulated, expressed, and multiplied through service. When you serve, you become a living channel for the divine. You are no longer a cup being filled, but the fountain itself. Service is not sacrifice, it is expansion. It is the realization that God's abundance flows through you, not to you. Every great life, every enduring success, every fortune that blesses generations has been built upon this principle. The selfish man may hoard riches, but they decay in his hands. The servant of spirit gives freely, and the universe replenishes him endlessly. You must understand that the law of wealth is never one of accumulation but of transmission. Divine substance is like light, it cannot be stored in darkness, it must shine. The moment you try to hoard it, you cut yourself off from its source. To serve is to keep the current alive. Every time you lift another, you lift yourself. Every time you bless another, you are blessed. It is impossible to give without receiving, because giving and receiving are the same act seen from 2 ends of the same current. The river that stops flowing becomes a swamp. The heart that stops giving becomes barren. But if you open yourself as a channel of divine generosity, you enter into an inexhaustible circuit of supply. Here's something most people completely miss. Service is not always about grand gestures. It begins in the small, unseen acts that carry the vibration of love. A kind word, spoken in sincerity, a helping hand offered without expectation, a moment of genuine attention, these are the gold coins of the spiritual economy. They enrich both giver and receiver because they are charged with the substance of God. You do not need to change the world, you only need to serve it where you stand. Every workplace, every home, every conversation is a field waiting for the seeds of love. The law guarantees that whatever you plant there will return to you multiplied, sometimes through the same channel, often through others. I once knew a woman who prayed for prosperity, yet remained anxious and dissatisfied. "Florence," she said, "I affirm daily, I tithe faithfully, yet nothing changes." I looked at her and said, "Then you must add love to your work. What you do must serve something greater than yourself." She frowned and asked, "How?" I said, "Begin by blessing everyone you interact with. See your work as a ministry, your customers as divine appointments, your earnings as energy to be shared." She obeyed, and a transformation began. Her business grew, but more importantly, her joy grew. "I finally understand," she said, "that my real wealth is not in what I make, but in the love I give while making it." I told her, "You have found the crown of wealth service. That which blesses others can never diminish you, it multiplies you. The consciousness of service frees you from fear of loss because you no longer see yourself as the source. When you know you are a channel, you understand that the supply passing through you belongs to God, and God cannot run out. The joy of service is that it shifts your focus from self to spirit, and in that shift, lack disappears. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" And the answer always returns, everything. The one who serves from the heart never worries about reward, for the law itself is their reward. You cannot serve in love without prosperity finding you, for love is the currency of heaven, and service is its circulation. I often think of the sun when I speak of service. It shines without calculation, without discrimination, upon saint and sinner alike. It never withholds its light out of fear it might run short. It gives because that is its nature, and in giving, it remains radiant. The same law applies to you. You are made in the image of the infinite giver. Your light is not diminished by shining, it grows brighter. Every act of service, every expression of generosity, polishes your inner radiance until you reflect the divine completely. Let me share with you a truth that will carry you far. Your purpose is your prosperity. When you find what you love to do and offer it in service to others, the law of supply supports you automatically. You will be guided to right work, right connections, right opportunities, not through struggle, but through resonance. Spirit loves to reward those who serve with joy. I have seen artists who once starved for recognition suddenly flourish when they began painting from love rather than ambition. I have seen merchants whose profits doubled when they began blessing their customers instead of competing with rivals. The law responds instantly to love because love is the law itself. Here's a practice that never fails. Each morning, before you begin your day, say, "Infinite Spirit, use me as a channel of blessing today. Let me serve wherever I am needed. Let every thought, word, and act increase the good of all." Do not worry how it will happen, simply hold the intention and the opportunities will come. Perhaps you will comfort someone, perhaps you will offer a solution, perhaps you will give a gift. It does not matter how small it seems. The law does not measure size, it measures sincerity. And at night, when you rest, give thanks for having been of service, and you will find that joy fills your sleep and your tomorrows bring miracles. The highest service you can give is to live truth so completely that others are inspired to do the same. When you walk in faith, you give others permission to believe. When you demonstrate prosperity by divine law, you prove that heaven's promises are real. Your very life becomes a ministry, your presence a sermon, your success a testimony. You do not need to preach. You only need to live as the expression of divine abundance. That is the ultimate service, to be the proof that God's law works. Now, let us seal this teaching with a declaration of truth. Say it aloud and feel it move through you. I am a channel of divine service. Infinite Spirit works through me to bless the world. Every act I perform multiplies good for myself and for all. I give freely, I serve joyfully, I prosper continually. My purpose is my prosperity, and my prosperity is eternal. Take a deep breath and feel the quiet dignity of those words. That is the crown of wealth settling upon your consciousness. You are now wearing the invisible diadem of divine service, the mark of one who has transcended need and entered into eternal supply. And now, having walked through the laws of giving, gratitude, peace, and service, we come to the closing revelation, the moment of completion, the sealing of these truths into living experience. Let us move into that sacred finale where all the laws meet in one eternal affirmation of abundance, and where we proclaim the word that opens the everlasting gates of divine wealth. And now, beloved, we have walked the long, luminous path together. We have traced the law from its silent birth in the heavens to its living manifestation in the human heart. We have watched it take shape in faith, grow strong in gratitude, flow freely in service, and rest in peace. And now the time has come to gather every truth into one great word, the word that opens the gates of heaven, the word that seals the consciousness of abundance, the word that restores you to your divine inheritance. For there is always one final note in every symphony, one steady tone that draws all the others into harmony, one last declaration that gathers every law into unity. That word is simply, I am. I am is not a phrase. It is the creative name of God spoken through human lips. It is the vibration that formed the stars, the pulse that moves the tides, the power that turns thought into matter. Every sentence that begins with I am is a decree written upon the fabric of the universe. When you say I am poor, you command poverty. When you say I am weak, you carve weakness into form. But when you say I am abundant, I am strong, I am one with the source, you awaken the sleeping God within, and the universe rushes to confirm your identity. All the wealth you could ever seek already lives within that I am. You are not a beggar calling to a distant heaven. You are heaven expressing itself as you. When you finally know this, not as a belief, but as a living experience, the search ends. You cease asking and begin declaring. You cease hoping and begin knowing. There is a sacred moment each day when I stand in stillness, my eyes closed, my breath soft, and I whisper to the invisible, I am. I feel those words move through me like light through water. In that instant, every boundary dissolves. I am no longer Florence. I am life itself. I am supply in expression. I am love unfolding. I am peace made visible. And from that consciousness, whatever I speak must come to pass. When I say, I am prosperous, heaven rearranges itself to mirror that truth. When I say, I am free, every chain of circumstance breaks. When I say, I am divine order, confusion yields to clarity. This is the power given to every soul, the power to speak the name of God as their own and to let that name create. Here's something most people completely miss. You cannot use I am carelessly and escape the results. The law takes you at your word. If you have spent years saying, I am tired, I am unlucky, I am struggling, those decrees have written themselves into your affairs. But the beauty of divine law is that the moment you speak truth, the old record begins to erase itself. A single declaration of I am renewed begins to unwind years of exhaustion. A single I am rich in consciousness begins to rewrite generations of lack. The law does not hold grudges, it only reflects the present vibration. Every time you affirm your divine identity, the mirror clears and the reflection changes. Do you understand what a miracle this is? The same creative force that spun galaxies now rests upon your tongue, waiting for your permission to act. It will not force itself upon you, it will echo whatever you pronounce. That is why you must guard the gates of your mouth and mind. Speak only what you wish to see. Begin each morning with declarations of your divine identity. Say, I am the child of infinite spirit. I am guided, guarded, and glorified. I am rich in every good thing. Let those words be the first breath of your day. They will set the tone for everything that follows. And when night falls, let your final whisper be, I am peace, I am fulfilled, I am one with the eternal supply. In doing this, you anchor yourself in the rhythm of creation. You may ask, Florence, is it truly so simple? Can 2 words change my life? And I tell you, yes, because those 2 words contain everything. The entire universe was born from a single declaration, I am. Everything that ever existed began as that awareness speaking itself into form. You are not separate from that process. You are it. When you affirm your divine identity, if you are not trying to become something new, you are remembering what has always been true. The entire game of life is this. to forget and then to remember, to fall asleep in fear and then awaken in faith, to say again and again until the words become flesh, I am. Now, let us bring all these truths together in a living affirmation, a final declaration that seals every law we have studied, every faith we have built, every blessing we have invoked. Speak these words with me, not as repetition but as revelation. I am one with infinite spirit. I am rich in mind, body, and affairs. I am the living expression of divine supply. Every door I need is open, every channel clear, every blessing flowing in perfect order. I am peace, I am power, I am prosperity itself. All that is mine by divine right manifests now, under grace, in perfect ways. Say it again softly, until you can feel the vibration of those words resonating in your heart like the hum of creation itself. That hum is not imagination, it is reality. It is the current of life, recognizing your authority. It is the universe saying, yes. In this consciousness, there is nothing more to seek. You have entered the kingdom, not as a visitor, but as its rightful heir. You are no longer trying to reach abundance. You are abundance walking in human form. You are no longer asking heaven to remember you. You have remembered heaven. The law no longer feels like something outside of you, it beats with your very pulse. And from this day forward, every word you speak, every step you take, every act you perform will carry the vibration of divine certainty. Let this truth settle into your being. You were never meant to chase prosperity. You were meant to channel it. You were never meant to beg for miracles. You were meant to become one. You were never meant to live in fear of time, loss, or limitation. You were meant to walk in the eternal now, where all is finished, all is perfect, all is provided. So I bless you, now, with the full awareness of your own divine identity. I bless your path, your home, your work, your relationships, your dreams. I bless every part of your life as an open channel through which heaven's wealth flows ceaselessly. I bless you with the peace that passes understanding, the joy that cannot be stolen, and the abundance that can never run dry. And as I leave you in this consciousness, remember, this law, older than the stars and richer than gold, is written not in books or in heaven, but in your own heart. Speak it, live it, trust it, and the world will bow to your word, for your word is the word of God made manifest. Say it one last time with me, with conviction that shakes the heavens and steadies the earth. I am. Now be still. The law is fulfilled, the word is spoken, and it is done under grace, in perfect ways.